I wanted to talk to you about Asian MMA. You know, you're a legend of the game out in Asia. Everything you did in Korea and
Thank you.
Japan, especially, is much loved when we look back. I really want to ask you what your memories are of that time. Like, how much pride do you have having fought for organizations like Pride, and why do you think people have so much affection for it looking back?
You got to remember, so at the time, so we're talking like early and mid 2000s, UFC was not the biggest kid on the block, right? It was Pride and I think maybe K-1 Heroes and stuff like that. And because it was in Japan, there was a certain exoticness about it, right? That was very, I don't want to say elite, but it was just very untouchable, right? So it made it even more desirable and just cooler, more mysterious for people. You know, anybody that fought over there, it was like, oh, cool, you're going over there. It was so far away. It's a completely different country. It was literally about, if you're from Vancouver, about 9 hours. When I was in South Florida, it was like almost, I think, 17 hours of flying, so it was very far. And it was just cool, man. Like the pageantry with the way the Japanese produced their events, that whole package, it was just really, really cool. And there'll never be anything else like it, unfortunately, but we definitely got some good memories out of it.
Do you think the glory days of MMA are behind us, or do you think there's a place we can get to in the future that can be better than anything we've seen before?
Well, I mean, it's all relative, it depends what you consider their glory days, I'll tell you one thing, from like a skill standpoint, fighters now are better than ever. And every generation is better than the previous one. And that goes, without saying, for any sport, but guys are better now than they are now. They just know how to train better. And, but in terms of like, I don't know, I think I know what you mean. And I think if you want to call that a glory day, it was definitely a unique days and a unique part of MMA history that happened back then with Asian MMA, and we'll never have it again. Or maybe we will have it again, you never know, but it was definitely a very, very, a pivotal moment in MMA history.
You fought for the UFC, fought for Pride, we mentioned, Dream, Pancrase, Road FC, kind of a who's who in Asian MMA. Which meant the most to you? Which did you have the best time at, do you think?
Pride would be up there for sure. Pride was just amazing. Spirit MC was also very good in Korea. And one event that a lot of people don't know about, you'll know about this one, but it was M1. But I fought in M1 when it was still just only a Russian event. And it was the first time I fought in St. Petersburg and the second time in Moscow, and it was just amazing. Again, that was, there was that exoticness of going to a completely different country, Like, most people, if you're in Canada, you fight in the States. If you're lucky, you'll get a fight in Hawaii, that's it. You don't go to Russia. You know what I mean? Nobody goes to Russia to fight. That was unheard of. And to have done it twice was really cool. And I got some good stories about going over there, So
it was interesting. I think I saw you tweet recently about how people used to wrap their own hands, and you saw a guy in Pride just use wet bits of towel underneath. Do you have any kind of really anecdotes that really stuck with you from your time fighting in Pride?
It just goes to show, like, little things like that, like wrapping your own hands. It's just a testament to just how the most important thing for a fighter is, yourself in fighting. All like things like wrapping hands and your walkout song and wet shorts, that stuff, that's just fluff. You know what I mean? It's cool to have it. You want to be on top of things. You want to be professional, but it's not the end of the world. It's a smaller part of a bigger whole, right? That's it. You got to focus on the fight, and that's it. A lot of fighters now, they're more worried about, like I said, your entrance song or your manager or this and this, your banner with your sponsors. Who gives a fuck about that shit? Sorry, man. It's all about how hard you trained, and what kind of fight you're gonna do. You know, that's it.
Which victory or even which loss fighting out in Asia stands out most to you, do you think?
Two of them, both in Pride. One of them was against Andrei Semenov, and it was a rematch. I'd fought him in that fight in St. Petersburg that I mentioned earlier, and I'd fought him to a draw, and then I rematched him in Pride, and I won a decision. And I mentioned this fight because I broke my hand early on in the fight, so I basically fought it with just one hand and still won, you know. And he was a tough guy. And then I fought his teammate a few year later in the Welterweight Grand Prix tournament, and I beat him by choke. And I like that fight because it's the fight where I felt the most on. And at the time, Amar Suluev was a killer. You know, he'd beaten Murillo Bustamante. He beat Dean Lister, I think. Like, he was tough. And I beat him on his own game, then took him down and submitted him, you know. So I was very proud of that.
Who do you think was the most influential figure in Asian MMA from back then?
Oh, there's so many. At one point it was Sakuraba for sure. I love that guy. He was so awesome. You know, people remember him for his crazy antics and, you know, but man, he was good. Like, he was good, as they say, you know, like if you watch his fight against Carlos Newton, it was just a clinic on grappling and submissions, you know. It was a great fight. Another guy that comes to mind is Ensign Inoue, just for that warrior mentality and just that you know, that bad boy attitude. You know, he had a cool look. And the smaller guys also, guys like from Shuto, like Rumina Sato, Max Sakurai, you know, those guys were just amazing, man. Just putting on amazing displays of mixed martial arts.
What about right now then, today? Who do you think the most important, or who excites you the most coming out of Asia specifically, whether one rise in UFC?
There's a couple Korean fighters that are good. That last one who fought just recently, I forgot his name, Superboy, I think, or something.
Korean Superboy?
Yeah.
I think he's off on military service right now, or Korean Zombie.
Oh, is he? He's tough. Korean Zombie he's a good friend of mine, and he's definitely one of the best, man, for sure. I love his style. There's a couple guys from ONE FC that are good too. That heavyweights, Adilani, whatever his name is.
Alan Galani?
No, not him. No.
Ong Lan Sang?
No, he fought. I think he may have lost to Brandon Vera, or he beat Brandon Vera, I think. The guy.
Ong Lan Sang beat Brandon Vera.
Yeah, that's him.
He's from Myanmar.
Yeah, he's tough. I like his style. Yeah, big, young, strong kid, you know, like fit. Yeah, tough to beat, for sure. Yeah.
So where do you think we're going in terms of in Asia right now? Because I mean, I'm in Southeast Asia, right, where the sport is so young. It's not like Japan, you know, which has kind of more of a developed scene. So what do you think the most important things are to get new fans? Because you've kind of seen it all come and go and come back again. So what do we need to do? What does the sport need to do?
It's all about ONE FC. Like, they are the vehicle that will drive MMA wherever it wants to go. So it all depends on the work that they do. You know, they have the power, they have the, you know, the funds. So it depends on what they do. I think so far they've done a pretty good job, you know, and especially starting completely from scratch, because in Southeast Asia, MMA was not unknown, but it was definitely not as popular as in other parts of the world, you know. So they did a very good job, and hopefully they'll keep going. And I mean, it just depends. Maybe they can, I don't know, somehow give it a bit of a revival in Japan, you know. That'd be good too. And definitely Korea. That'd be cool.